But mate, before I get into the album and everything, I've got to say I've seen the Fear Factory shirt on the Spotify. I've seen the Fear Factory shirt in the music video. What are you
Yeah.
doing this weekend?
Well, just as it happens, we only found out last Tuesday, so it's been a bit of a hectic week. But yeah, we are going to be opening for Fear Factory and Machine Head at the Perth leg of the tour over here. So yeah, pretty pumped up for that because they're like obvious. Well, they're two of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
Two of my biggest influences. And yeah, just really pumped to be sharing a bill with those guys and some illustrious metal bands from around Australia as well, opening our friends in Our Last Enemy over in Sydney and such, and Frankenbach in
Yeah. Yeah.
Victoria,
Yeah.
and Hollow World in where was the other one? Brisbane, I think it was. Yeah, Brisbane. So, but yeah, I mean, so yeah, we're pretty pumped. Yeah, it came as a bit of a surprise to us, because we didn't know if there was going to be support slots to that
Mm.
show, given that it's such a massive bill. You know what I mean? You get two of those guys, they're easily headliners each into their own. So to have a local opener for those bands and for us to be it, I mean, pretty pumped. You know,
Hey,
can't complain.
you can't really complain about that, can you? And you're right, because Machine Head normally, if they don't have a support band, just do an evening with Machine Head and play for like three and
Yeah,
a half hours as it is. So I was surprised, but it's good. It's good to get the local talent on the bill as well, because I always go to these shows. Sometimes you show up and you have no idea who the support is, and there's so many times.
yeah,
Actually, the shirt I'm wearing right now, Valhalla, did not hear of them until I saw them open for Storm, I want to say, and it's just a great way to find some of these bands in the local scene.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always thought that myself. I actually think that like Australia punches above its weight when it comes to metal. There's some fantastic metal bands in Australia. Not to say that there's not worldwide, but I mean, considering how isolated we are and how small our population is, there's absolutely great bands all over Australia. And a good way to showcase them is to have them open for bigger bands over east. So yeah, or like international bands. So
Yeah,
that's really good. But like you said, like I think the last two times I've seen Machine Head, it's just been an evening with Machine Head. Like you said, 3.5 hours of just Machine Head. So I thought they might do half of that, and then Fear Factory would fill the other half of that because both bands have been going around that long. They
yeah.
could easily fill those long sets. So, but yeah, it's really pumped. Like I said, like easily two of my biggest influences of all time. Yeah, just pumped. That's all I can say is I'm just
Yeah.
pumped. I don't even. It's a bit of shock as well. And a lot of stuff to like try pull together because we just the Friday before last, not Friday, just gone the Friday before last. We did the album launch show over
I
here
was
in
going to
Perth,
ask. Yeah.
at the Rosemount Hotel, which was fantastic. Like went off, good turnout. Was worried about the turnout because there's been so many international bands coming. That tends to thin out local
Oh,
shows.
yeah.
But yeah, the ATF crew, which are our fans, turned out in force. Great night. All the other bands killed it as well. So it was a good vibe, great night, great sound. And we sold all of like most of our like merch, all of our shirts and stuff. And I
Yeah.
was like, cool, we got some time before our next one, so I'll get some new designs done up. And then like literally about four days later or whatever it was, bam, you guys are opening for Machine Head next Saturday, and we're like, oh shit, we need some shirts like pronto. So, emergency rush order goes straight in. So hopefully we get that before the show. But yeah, so I mean, it's a lot of sort of shit, get our stuff
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
but just logistics really. But other than that, we just pumped like,
And that's a big thing too, because you talk about all the Australian bands opening for internationals coming down here, and we've all seen it in the Facebook comments. Most of the time, when metal bands come to Australia, they miss out on Perth. How's
yep.
that impact the local scene over there? Do you think it's a bit better for the up and comers coming out because it's the only way to really go see some live music, like especially in this genre? We're not the most popular genre of all time.
Yeah. Um, I think it's good and bad, to be honest.
Mm,
I mean it's bad on our hip pockets because I mean, like every time, if they don't come to Perth and you want to go see them, you either got to fly across the other side of the country,
yeah.
which from Perth is very expensive. As soon as you get on a plane in Perth, oh man, like you're looking at upward, pretty much $1,000 just about
It's
every time.
it's cheaper to fly to Japan from Sydney than it is for me to go, because I was like, I'm sure you noticed living in Perth, all the Swifties and all the WWE fans would have been kind of swarming the city for the last couple of weeks. But yeah, price
Yep.
is just over to there. It's just crazy, and I think a lot of people kind of miss that. Is that, yeah, for to play in Australia, but then to play in Perth, it is
Yep.
almost like a second international tour because it is
Yep.
just so expensive.
And that's why a lot of international acts don't come here. I was actually studying doing music business management a couple of years ago, and one of my lecturers said to me, it's not specific just to metal, but like obviously bigger genres that can pull bigger crowds, because like you said, metal isn't the most popular of all. Like, we love it,
Yeah,
but it's like, let's be realistic here. Taylor Swift can just about pull as many people as go to Wacken just by herself,
yeah,
fucking by
exactly.
herself, just about. So just about every time she plays. So when they do the East Coast, it's like, if the East Coast, like say Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and even Adelaide is X, it's X times two. So whatever it costs to put on those four shows to get to Perth. So you're
Yeah,
basically doubling your costs to get to Perth, not just with flights and stuff, but just hiring venues. Everything's a bit more expensive over here, is what I hear. And having like traveled over east a few times to play shows recently, I can attest to that. I get over there and you turn on the TV and you see the flight, like ads for flights. Just about had a heart attack when I saw it with like Melbourne to Adelaide, and it was like $50. And I was like, what?
yeah.
Like, what? Like, to me, that's like insane, because as soon as we got on a plane, we're looking at, $600-700 easy, $800 to get to Melbourne and back. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
we did Brisbane earlier this year, and it was $1,100 each to play a show in Brisbane. $1,100 each return,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's why it's hard for bands from WA to get out and play. So, to back to your original question, so when international bands don't come here, it's it's annoying, because like obviously we'd have to go across to see them.
Mm.
And a lot of people just simply can't afford it, so you really got to pick. But when they do, it is good, because there's a lot of competition, because we've got great bands over here in WA. The scene here is thriving. So like you said, with the isolation, the downside is what I've just told you about. It's hard to get
Yeah.
out for bands to tour, like bands our size to go tour, and or our friends' bands and that. So it's very hard for Perth bands to tour, but because of that, because of there isn't there's good venues, but there's not a lot of venues. There's more competition to put on shows and to get on bills. So you've got to be like
Yeah.
razor tight. You got to really have something to like to really make it. But because of that, because it's hard to get across the east, a lot of people in Perth do support the local scene. So we do have a thriving local scene. When it's on, it's when it's on fire, it's great. Some of the best crowds in Australia right here in Perth, I would say, because we're ravenous. We're
Yeah.
just really hungry for it. And I can attest from when I was a youngster, when these bands like Fear Factory and Machine Head would come, man, you would go off, because you might only get 2 or 3 international bands a year back then.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit more, but still pretty close to that. I think last year I only went to 3 international shows. Mind you, this year I've already been to 3 international shows, so ebbs and flows. But yeah, so the scene here is better and worse for the fact that we're so isolated, and that international bands don't always come. It's complicated. It's not an easy black and white answer, but yeah, there are good sides to it and there are bad sides to it, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
And it's a good thing as well, because like you said, because competition is so fierce, every single band over there is tight. That's awesome for the fans to go out to these
Yeah.
shows, because a band that's going to come on is just always going to slap. But
Yeah.
I guess when it comes to you guys kind of getting towards, because I've noticed there's been some gaps between the albums. This last one was only 5 years, and we all know there was a certain thing in the middle of that probably slowed down production and live shows and all that. But how long's the new album kind of been in the works per se?
Um, Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. Basically, the last album, Misery Season, came out in 2019.
Mm.
And in true ATF style, I mean, what can go wrong sort of does go wrong a lot of the time with us. Just the chaos. I'm
Yeah.
not sure whether that might be me or just like circumstance, but was the thing you're referring to the lineup changes
Oh no,
or
no, it was
oh,
COVID.
COVID? Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, that
No.
too. Actually, to be honest, funnily enough, COVID had this weird like so over in WA because we locked our borders.
Oh yeah,
There
you
were
did
there were
too.
times where we could literally do whatever we wanted as long as we stayed in our state and in our little zones.
Yeah.
So everyone I know, every band I know from Perth, we all just hunkered down and wrote. Everybody wrote. So because like at first we couldn't play shows, but then we could play shows while everyone else is still locked down. We could play shows, and actually the shows were really good because no bands could get in or out, so everyone had to go to local shows. So we had that. So COVID, yeah, I mean, COVID was again a double-edged sword. It was bad and good, but mostly bad. Let's not
Yeah, yeah. Let's not like
let's
look,
not
don't
like
get
I mean, put it in perspective here. I mean, it was a horrible thing the whole world went through, but yeah, I mean, so we got a lot of writing done, but we basically started writing in 2019 after the last album came out. And we do tend to take our time with these things, mostly because we write as a whole. So if there's just one or two people writing, like it moves faster because you don't have to run it through everyone else. But when you've got to run it through a lot of people, it takes longer, and
yeah.
you got people coming in, changing this, changing that. So there was that. There's also we did have the whole lineup change. Mind you, we'd recorded the entire album before the lineup changes happened. So that was kind of cool. We got that done. But yeah, I mean, yeah, 5 years between one was yeah, I guess it was like 6 years or something. Yeah, 6 years between Program to Suffer to Misery Season. So yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, we'd want to be doing it every 2 to 3 years, releasing an
Yeah.
album. But it's also financial as well because it is quite expensive to get things recorded, mixed, and mastered and stuff. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff at home, but we sort of want to push the quality. So we went to Sumo Studios again, same
Yep.
same team we had for the last for Misery Season. Um, so yeah, so it takes some time to build that amount of money up as well. And also in between that, we did a little bit of touring here and there as well. And like you said, COVID. So yeah, there has been a lot going on to be fair. So now
Yeah.
that I think about it, like, yeah, it's no wonder it took 5 years. Yeah.
It's funny when you look back at that because to think like, well, 4 years ago, I guess was technically like lockdown. The anniversary is this month, yay! Uh, Weird thing to think about.
Oh,
But it's kind of weird how like I don't know if it was ever since COVID. I feel like life's moved so much faster, but at the same time, I feel like no time's passed. When people go, "Oh yeah, that happened like 4 or 5 years ago," it's like, "Oh really? Like I thought that happened last year." It's just kind of
yeah.
weird how the time goes by. But what I wanted to say as well, because I think that was the first album. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2011.
Yep. 11 Pass came out in 2011. That's how I remember it.
Clever, clever. How
Um,
have you kind of grown since then, like going into recording? Because I know myself recording, and as a vocalist myself as well, the style I did when I first started recording to how I do it now has changed so drastically. Is that something that's changed for you personally? You learn any tips and tricks? Because live vocals compared to studio vocals, that's at least to me, I feel like a completely different beast. I'm just curious your
yep.
opinion on it.
Yeah, yeah. On your last comment there, it is totally different beast, live
Mhm.
vocals and studio vocals. I think I prefer live. I mean, depends because you can have like you can go to a venue, might not have the best fallbacks and get bad sound, and then it's really
Mm.
hard to hear yourself. So it's like, but I don't know, live vocals, you're more in the moment, you feel the energy, and it's more about like the performance and the energy and the vibe, and you get that sort of the adrenaline going as well. So you get all that going for you. Whereas
Yeah,
in the studio, it's sterile and you're just repeating yourself over and over again ad nauseum to the point where you're like, a couple days in, you're sitting there, you're just in the fetal position in the vocal booth, like, I don't even know what sounds good anymore. What do you like, because this is why I need a good engineer, like a good studio engineer, because they need to work with you like that because you know, you can get in your own head because it's just you in the vocal booth, as you know, and you can do it slightly different. You can do it 100 times slightly different, and it's neither worse or better. It's just slightly different, and you need someone to be like, "We've got this." Otherwise, I would sit there just going, "Oh, just one more take. I'll do another one. I can try this." You know, you need someone to be like, "No, it's good. Got it. Move on." You know. That being said, Tristan Sturmer from Sumo Studios is a bit of a, I wouldn't say slave driver, but he works you hard.
Okay.
So there was days there where, like, you know, by the end of it, I was sitting down in the vocal booth between takes, like, just like, I am knackered, man. I am wrecked. So I mean, I gave it everything I had. So at least I know that. But yeah, and through the years, to go back to your original part of the question, my vocal style has definitely changed because, like you said, you learn things the first time you go to record. So then you change. And also, just as the years go on, you tend to, I don't know, you just pick things up because you do it more. And so yeah, my vocal style has definitely changed a lot since 11 Past. From 11 Past to now is like night and day. And you know, I guess from Misery Season to Tomorrow Will Be Better, it's more of a slight change because you sort of find who you are as a vocalist, I guess.
Yeah.
As to where I'll go from here for the next recording, who knows? We've just released this one, so let's let that one breathe before we start thinking about it. But that being said, we are looking at getting back into writing soon,
Oh, wow.
hopefully. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a new lineup, and like maybe not to do an album or anything, just to do a single or an EP, which is another debate for the whole industry, really, because I mean, I love albums personally, but I mean, is everybody, you know, is anybody listening to albums anymore? I mean, there is. I think metal is probably the last genre where
Yeah.
albums are still like genuinely a thing, where people are like, no, I sit down, I listen to the album, I read the lyrics, and I get into it. And I love that about metal. So that's awesome. So yeah, but we'll see where we go, you know. We'll see how this album goes first and hopefully do a bit of touring before we record anything new. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
And it's so funny you mentioned it. I'm glad you did about like metal are kind of like the last people to listen to an album because I think a lot of writing in metal, the story and songs will bleed over into the next track, and you kind of do need to listen
Hmm.
to the whole album to get like. I can't listen to any song off the album Whitechapel Kin without listening to that album start to finish, just because it is just such a huge story.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, yeah, pop music doesn't need to do it, but we all know pop music's there to put out a hit that's going to be popular at the nightclubs for 12 months.
Yep.
And then in 20 years, they can play it again and call it the early 2000s night,
Nostalgic.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly like that. But, and going back, because you did mention you've got some time coming up, you did play the album launch show. Do you still, or did you ever get nervous about getting on stage to perform brand new songs live? Because I've seen bands go out there, and I don't want to name them by name, play a brand new song, the crowd just doesn't care because they want to hear like the old hits. Does that ever kick in, or are you like more excited to see the reaction?
A little bit of both, to be honest, because yeah, it's funny because I think when you debut a song to a crowd, if they haven't heard it before, they sort of hold back a bit to absorb it, to listen to it, because they don't know when the fast bits coming or the solos coming or the breakdowns coming or whatever. So they go, okay, I'm gonna absorb this. And you know, also, you know, metalheads, you know, like, yeah, okay, what's this new thing? Cross the arms, let's judge it or whatever. And that's absolutely fine because you're well within your rights to really listen to something and find out if you like it or not. So you do get a little bit of that. I wouldn't say I get nervous to play new songs, but I am aware that when something is new and I put it in the set, I'm like, don't put it anywhere critical in the set, just in case it falls flat. Like me personally, like some of the guys, they wanted to for the album launch to end on some of the new songs, and I was like, absolutely not, because we've never played these live before. For all we know, like we might like it, but they might hate it. Like they would have heard it by then. You know, most of the fans would have because we released the album a couple of weeks before the album
Yeah.
launch party. So I'm assuming a fair few of them would have heard it, but we don't know how they're going to react. I don't know the energy. I don't know how it's going to go live. And for me, it's more about, I think songs. not to get all like artsy and like airy fairy here, but I think as you play songs live, then they start to take on a life of their own. They get their own sort of story and their own vibe as you play them live, and you can sort of feel what it feels like to play that song live and how the crowds react to it. And like, because we got songs in our set that I know exactly how it's going to feel to play that song live. I know what the crowd's going to do 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
If it's our crowd, I know they like this song and they get the energy, and this is where they're going to go crazy. This is where the mosh pit's going to be. This is where I can get a circle pit. You know these sort of things the more times you play it.
Yeah.
If you've never played a song before, you don't know that. So, and I've done this before where you get there and you got a new song, and you're like, this would be perfect for a circle pit. You call for a circle pit, nobody moves. Move on with your life. Like it's like, oh, okay, not trying that again, you know. But you give it a go, and yeah. But like I said, you learn as the songs sort of come alive. The more times you play them live, is the best way I can describe it.
You instantly made me think about like calling out circle pit. I wonder how many times Corey Taylor tried and spit it out for the everyone get down before jumping up. I wonder how long he tried to push that until it worked. That's so it's made me think about everything I've gone and seen live now. I'm like, I see this band, they do this here, this band, they do this here. I wonder how that came together. I don't know. That's give me something to think about for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, really think about it. I mean, any band that's done a wall of death, how many times did they have to be like split it down the middle, and how many times did they show up and people were like, nah, you know, more people eventually go, you know what, this might be fun. So
And
yeah,
look,
I mean,
sometimes it might come down to, look, mate, it's a Tuesday. I've got to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning for work. Maybe if it was Saturday night, I'd be in the wall of death.
oh,
But
and that
tonight,
actually, that is a very good point, because
yeah,
sometimes you've got to read, like as the front man, as you would know, like you've got to read the crowd. You got to read the energy, especially if you're on tour, because you're going to territories where you might not be so well known, or most likely you're not well known if you're a band of our level. You like when we went over east. So I can't call for the same sort of reactions as I would at home, like in
yeah,
hometown, because our hometown crowd, and you know, I know how, well, generally I know how they're going to react. They know what we're going to do, and we got this back and forward. But yeah, you go over east and you're like, you know, this might not work here. So you sort of feel them out. Maybe if it's already happening, you can feel it. Like, oh, just give it a little push for a circle pit, or you know. And we did that a couple of times in Victoria, and then there were other gigs where we're like, absolutely, I'm not going to try that, because it's just not. You can feel it in the air. It's not that vibe tonight, because like you said, it was either a Sunday night. People got work next morning. They're just like, hurry up, man. I got to get home by 11, you know, like,
yeah.
so yeah, exactly like that.
Did you well, before I get into the next question, just curious, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Did you have a favorite place to play outside of Perth? Like when you went there for the first time, you went, this crowd clicked with us.
Um, Outside of Perth, okay. Well, so it's a bit hard, because the first bit of like proper touring we did, we went to New South Wales in early 2020, like literally the month before the lockdowns.
Yeah.
So we went there, and nobody in like, so to put a bit of contrast into this, you remember that ship that pulled into Sydney Harbour that had all the that pulled in as we were getting in there, right? And also the bushfires had just stopped, mostly because as we flew into Sydney, it started raining, and then Sydney flooded. Like it just absolutely flooded. So there was a few things going on there that were like, there's a pandemic about to like really kick off. There's the floods, the fires had happened, and nobody in Perth had started panic buying yet. So we get to Sydney and we go to pick up some supplies, and we're like, where the fuck's all the water, chicken, and toilet paper? Like we couldn't get any chicken, toilet paper, water. We're like, what do we do? Like, what? I just thought, man, this is what, you know, there's lazy stock, like shelf stockers in Sydney. I'm like, whatever. But yeah, it was a bit hectic. So that was the first time we'd really toured, and then pandemic, and then we got back to touring basically again last year from the pandemic. We had to get the album done and such in the meantime, and you know, we couldn't travel out of the state for what, 3 years. So so here we are. But I don't know. I think I like different places for different reasons. So for example, in that particular New South Wales tour, I think Newcastle had the biggest crowd. Sydney had the most energy, but Wollongong had the biggest circle pit. And that's what I remember of that tour. So I remember those three things. And
Yeah.
if if someone put a gun to my head, I mean, I might say Sydney just because it was more intimate and personal and just like great energy. But I also like the other two for different reasons. And Queensland, we went to recently. We did Brisbane and Redcliffe, two very different shows. One was a big festival, and the other one was like this tiny show, like floor show in what I can only describe as a cafe turned into a live music venue. And it's called Tribe Clubhouse in
Yeah.
Redcliffe. Redcliffe's really nice as well. Like I really liked Redcliffe sort of on the ocean. I was like, this is nice. Like just the vibe of the area. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is kind of cool. Um, and they were both different shows and they were both good for different reasons. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there was the same. We went to Victoria last year. We did a Kill Fest in Kilmore, which was awesome. Like that festival, really well run and just great vibe, good community spirit. That was sort of regional Victoria. And then we did two other shows in Victoria, one in Sunbury, which is sort of like out of Melbourne suburbs, sort of ish.
Yeah.
And then Fitzroy, which is in Melbourne, and they were all good for different reasons as well. So I mean, like, I don't know, it's hard. It's kind of like pick your favorite child, I guess. I don't have kids, but I assume it'd be sort of similar to that because you
Yeah.
have different experiences, and like I hold them all fondly for different reasons. And that being said, it would be pretty bad of me, even if I did have a bad experience, to just slag off some town anyway. But in all honesty, I haven't hated anywhere I've really played. Do you know what I mean? I've never gone
Yeah.
to a place outside of WA and thought, I'm not fucking coming back here. I've always thought like that was all right. Like let's do it again some other time and see what we can get next time, like yeah, I'm much more that way inclined.
Yeah. Well, speaking of next time, you got new record label, new album. Is
Yeah.
there a new tour coming up? Are you going to try and kind of make your way east a little bit this year?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. The really legitimately the only thing stopping us doing bulk touring is just the cost. We are actually in talks with some bands and some like we got friends in bands and there's other bands that have reached out to us and we are interested in all of it. And we're just looking into ways to make it happen, how we can possibly fund it, basically. Maybe looking to grants or something. Because like I mean, on the East Coast, say for example, if sort of a local, sort of a group of bigger local bands wants to do East Coast tour and they're from the East Coast,
Mm.
they do those like weekenders. So they'll do 3 weekends in 1 month. So they'll do like Brisbane, like Queensland 1 weekend, New South Wales the following weekend, and Victoria the weekend after, right? Which is fine because you can stay on the East Coast and your flights aren't
Yeah.
that us, the option is to fly east and stay on the East Coast for a month, which is expensive. We all got day jobs and such as well, so we lose our funds there. Or fly out every Thursday night and fly back every Sunday for a month. Like literally do that for a month, and the flights are just ridiculously expensive. So we're trying to look into ways to make maybe do some of those sort of shows. But the main thing is we're definitely keen. And if anyone wants to bring us over, if anyone's listening and been thinking, hey, I wouldn't mind bringing these guys over, contact us because we are keen for shows. We want to hit the East Coast again. We want to get to places we haven't been yet. Like we haven't been to South Australia yet.
Yep.
Uh, I haven't been to the Northern Territory. We actually met some bands from the Northern Territory. Temperamental was one of them. When we played the Monk and Pedal Festival in Brisbane, there was some Northern Territory bands there. Like, hey, it'd be cool to have you guys come up here. I mean, we're looking to get anywhere that people wanna have us and have a good time. Because we've got this album, we want to promote it. And yeah, I genuinely I'm sort of a little bit stuck in my ways a lot of the time. And I thought genuinely that I wouldn't be a guy that would like touring, but I love it. Like I
Yeah.
actually love being on tour. Like The worst thing obviously is, being on planes for long stretches of time. That's annoying.
Airports,
But
man, airports. I hate that.
yeah, exactly. Planes and airports, you're just like, Jesus, man. But other than that, like, yeah, I love it. I love playing and meeting new people, meeting new bands, playing in front and like having to earn a new crowd, like, get new respect in a new place because they don't know us yet, they don't owe us anything. So I kind of enjoy the challenge of being
Yeah.
like, wait, which is kind of how I'm looking at this Machine Head Fear Factory thing. I know it's in our hometown, and a fair few people in the crowd would know us, but let's be realistic here. The show sold out before we got announced.
Mm.
So nobody is there to see us. They've all paid to see Machine Head and Fear Factory. So we've got to win them over, we gotta be like, all right, we're here to see Machine Head and Fear Factory too. But before they get on, let's have some fun together. So, and I kind of enjoy that when we go to a new town as well. So I'm looking forward to getting back over east. We are looking at making it happen. We are in talks, nothing set in stone yet, but yeah, East Coast, we are coming basically at some point.
And that's an interesting thing you said, the win over the crowd. And I haven't thought about it. There has been so many times after a band has finished, I'm like, oh, I better go check out their merch table actually and see what they got, see if the guys are there to kind of say, hey,
Yep.
really like the music, how long you been doing this too, or even just grab, a patch to add to the vest or a card. So I remember to check them out later after the show because sometimes, you get to the end of the show, you had a couple too many drinks, you kind of forget what the opening band was at the same time. But
Yep.
like you said, if anyone's listening and want to bring you over, you mentioned you haven't been to Adelaide. I reckon the Froth and Fury Festival would suit you guys so well, and that is amazing as well. I think you'd love that.
We actually have spoken to the crew from Froth and Fury. I have it. I'm not going to speak for them, but I have it on good authority that they've basically got the band sort of in mind that they want to bring over.
Yeah.
We are unfortunately at this very moment not one of those bands, but that may change in future. But yeah, I'd love to play something like that. Yeah, something like that. Even do you remember New Dead Festival as well?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
really cool. But yeah, apparently that's not happening this year. But yeah, I mean, we're keen. Festivals are good, obviously, because it's a good way to maximize exposure to territories where we've not been before, or even if we have been, we're less well known. But yeah, I mean, we do okay. I mean, I run all the merch and like I'm at the shows usually on the merch desk when I'm not on stage. So I'm
Yeah.
the guy that you meet at the merch stand. But I also send out the merch when we get online orders. So I sort of keep tabs on where I'm sending it to. I'm like, oh, a few things to Queensland, a few things to Victoria. So I'm like, well, there's people over there. There is a demand for us. So like I said, I'm keen. Like I love playing music. I love being in this band. It's basically my life. Like this comes first. Well, health and well-being first, because you're useless without it. But outside of that, this comes first, and I just sort of organize everything else in my life around it. So yeah, I'm pretty useless at everything else, but this is what I like to do. So yeah, I just want to play new territories, play overseas even. We were looking into that, but funds kind of got away from us a bit there. But yeah, all in good time. Hopefully, when opportunities knock, hopefully we'll be able to answer.
Yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, and that's what I hope for you guys as well, mate. Well, I would love to keep talking to you, but I'm getting the thing from Zoom going. We're going to kick you out in 5 minutes. So before
Wow.
I let you go, yeah, we've been talking for a while. It's been great. But before I let you go, mate, is there anything you just kind of wanted to say to the people out there about the new album, about tours coming up, or even just a thanks for the support over the last couple of years?
Yeah, like I said, we haven't got anything set in stone, but like do check us out. If you haven't heard of us before, check us out. All This Filth from Perth, Western Australia. Very proud to be from Perth, Western Australia. And Australia in general. Like I said, metal in Australia is very strong.
Mm.
But thank you to the ATF crew, which is our fans, for supporting us over the years. Thanks to all the bands that we've toured with and who have supported us and anyone who's reached out to us and helped us. And thank you to yourself for having us on and getting the good word out, because without support from people like you, people might not ever hear of us. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, mate. And I'll make sure I'll send you the link when this video goes live as well. But it has been an absolute pleasure. The new album well, let's just say it fucking crushes. I'm at the end of the YouTube video. I can swear now. But it's awesome, dude. Thanks so much. And best of luck this weekend. I know if I was in your position, I know you're keeping cool about it now, but the kid on the inside must be like, yes, I can't believe this is happening. So
Definitely, I'm trying to keep it down. I don't want to be like drain all my energy and get on stage and be like I'm so tired because I've just been like all week. But I am genuinely on the inside like yes. 16-year-old Brendan is really happy.
You got to kind of keep some of that image, you know. We're in metal. We're meant to be tough and act like we don't care, but we're all nerds at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever. Machine Head, Fear Factory, only two of my favorite bands of all time. Whatever, you know.
Well, thank you, dude. You have an awesome rest of your day and kill it on the weekend. Crush it.
Cheers. Thank you very much for your support, man. Nice to chat to you.
Nah, it's been a good one. You have a good one, dude.
Thanks. You too, man.
Thanks.